Napoleon Bonaparte. On December 24, 1800, Napoleon Bonaparte was traveling in Paris on his way to the opera when a cart filled with explosives was detonated nearby. The bomb, planted by royalist conspirators who opposed Napoleon's rule, exploded prematurely, killing and injuring several bystanders. Napoleon's carriage had been slightly delayed, causing him to pass the site after the explosion. Miraculously, he emerged unharmed. The conspirators were swiftly arrested, tried, and executed, and Napoleon later referred to the incident as the plot of the daggers. Adolf Hitler. On July 20, 1944, German Army Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg and a group of conspirators attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler at the Wolf's Lair headquarters in East Prussia. Stauffenberg carried a briefcase bomb into a meeting room with Hitler. The bomb detonated, killing 4 people and injuring several others. However, Hitler survived because the briefcase had been moved slightly behind a thick table leg, which shielded him from the blast. The conspirators were arrested and executed within days, and Hitler became increasingly paranoid about plots against him. Charles de Gaulle. On August 22, 1962, French President Charles de Gaulle's motorcade was ambushed on a Paris highway by members of the Organisation Armed Secrète, or OAS, a far-right paramilitary group opposed to Algerian independence. The attackers opened fire on the presidential limousine, hitting the car multiple times. De Gaulle and his wife were unharmed, and security forces quickly neutralized the attackers. Several were later tried and imprisoned, while others fled the country. Indira Gandhi. Months before her assassination in 1984, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi survived a knife attack during a public function. A man managed to rush the stage, but Gandhi's security team quickly restrained him before he could strike. Despite repeated warnings, Gandhi continued her public appearances, demonstrating her resilience. She would later be killed by her own bodyguards in October 1984.
Margaret Thatcher. On October 12, 1984, the Irish Republican Army, IRA, attempted to assassinate British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher during the Conservative Party conference in Brighton. A bomb had been planted in the Grand Hotel where Thatcher and her cabinet were staying. It detonated early in the morning, killing 5 people, including a member of Thatcher's cabinet. Thatcher narrowly escaped the blast, sleeping in a different part of the hotel. The IRA claimed responsibility, and the event heightened British anti-terrorism measures.
Fidel Castro. The Cuban revolutionary leader survived dozens of assassination attempts orchestrated by the CIA and other groups opposed to his rule. Some attempts were bizarre: an exploding cigar intended to kill him during a public event, poisoned diving suits for his underwater activities, and even chemical-laced wetsuits. None succeeded. Castro later publicly acknowledged the number of attempts, claiming the plots numbered in the hundreds.
Vladimir Lenin. On August 30, 1918, revolutionary leader Vladimir Lenin was shot in Moscow by Fanny Kaplan, a member of the Socialist Revolutionary Party. Kaplan fired 3 shots at Lenin outside a factory, hitting him twice in the shoulder and neck. Lenin survived but suffered severe health complications for the rest of his life. Kaplan was immediately arrested, tried, and executed by firing squad for her actions.
Benito Mussolini. On April 7, 1926, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini was attacked by Irish aristocrat Violet Gibson in Rome. Gibson fired a small-caliber pistol at Mussolini as he walked in a public square. The bullet grazed his nose, causing a minor injury. Mussolini was escorted to safety, and Gibson was arrested. She was eventually deported to the UK rather than executed, suffering mental instability.
Mahatma Gandhi. On January 20, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi survived a bombing attempt during a prayer meeting in Delhi. A bomb was detonated in the crowd, but Gandhi was not harmed. The attackers fled, though some were apprehended later. Gandhi's focus on non-violence continued, but he was tragically assassinated 10 days later by Nathuram Godse during another public event.
Yitzhak Rabin. Before his fatal assassination in 1995, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin survived earlier threats. One planned attack involved a gunman approaching him at a public rally. Security services intervened, arresting the attacker before any shots could be fired. Rabin continued his political work and peace negotiations, but this earlier attempt foreshadowed the vulnerability that led to his later assassination by right-wing extremist Yigal Amir.
Anwar Sadat. Prior to his assassination in 1981, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat survived multiple plots. Intelligence uncovered plans involving gunmen and explosives aiming to strike him during public events. These attempts were thwarted by military and Secret Service protection. Despite these foiled plots, a later attack during a military parade on October 6, 1981, would successfully end his life.
Pope John Paul II. On May 13, 1981, Pope John Paul II was shot multiple times by Mehmet Ali Aka in St. Peter's Square. Aka fired from close range, hitting the Pope in the abdomen, hand, and arm. The Pope was rushed to Gemelli Hospital, where surgeons performed life-saving operations. Aka was captured immediately and later imprisoned. Pope John Paul II publicly forgave Aka years later during a prison visit.
Nelson Mandela.
During apartheid-era South Africa, multiple plots were discovered to assassinate anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela. One plan involved poisoning food while he was imprisoned on Robben Island. Security forces intercepted the attempt, and Mandela survived multiple threats, eventually being released and later becoming president. Aung San Suu Kyi. On May 30, 2003, Myanmar opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi's motorcade was ambushed by government-backed militias. Gunfire and explosions targeted her vehicle while traveling to a public event. Several supporters were killed, but Suu Kyi survived unharmed. The incident highlighted the extreme risks faced by pro-democracy leaders in military regimes.
Yasser Arafat. Multiple assassination attempts were documented against Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. In one instance, a planned airstrike targeted a compound he had recently left, narrowly missing him. Israeli intelligence and other foreign agencies were suspected of orchestrating various attempts, none of which succeeded in ending his life.
Hugo Chavez. In April 2002, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez survived a coup attempt that included plans for assassination. Military rebels briefly detained him, claiming to seize control of the country. Loyalist forces rescued Chavez after 2 days, and he returned to power. Chavez later revealed he had survived multiple foreign-backed assassination plans.
Park Chung-hee. In 1968, South Korean President Park Chung-hee survived an infiltration by North Korean commandos in Seoul. The commandos intended to assassinate him, but Park's security forces intercepted them just blocks from the presidential residence. The plot was part of ongoing tensions between North and South Korea.
Lech Wałęsa. Polish labor leader and later president Lech Wałęsa survived assassination attempts during communist rule in Poland. One incident involved an explosive device planted near his office that failed to detonate. Declassified files later revealed repeated targeting of Wałęsa by the state's security forces. King Abdullah II of Jordan. In 2002, Jordanian authorities uncovered a plot involving chemical weapons targeting King Abdullah II. The plan, orchestrated by extremist cells, was disrupted before execution. Several suspects were arrested, and Jordan strengthened security measures around the royal family.
Pervez Musharraf. In 2003, Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf survived 2 assassination attempts. One involved a car bomb placed along his convoy route, which failed to explode. Another involved suicide attackers targeting a public speech, but Musharraf escaped unharmed, highlighting the ongoing threat from militant groups.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan. During the failed coup attempt in Turkey on July 15, 2016, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan narrowly escaped assassination. Military forces loyal to the coup stormed the hotel he had just left. Security forces rescued Erdogan, and many plotters were later arrested or killed. Volodymyr Zelenskyy. During the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy survived multiple assassination attempts. Ukrainian intelligence intercepted several elite hit squads sent to kill him in Kyiv. He continued leading the country despite the immediate risks to his life.
Shinzo Abe. Before his assassination in 2022, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe survived earlier threats and security breaches. One incident involved an armed individual detained near a campaign event days prior. Security services emphasized vigilance following the incident.
Alexander Litvinenko. While not a head of state, former Russian official Alexander Litvinenko was targeted in an assassination attempt using radioactive polonium in 2006. He was poisoned in London, initially surviving exposure but later dying from radiation poisoning. The case exposed international political intrigue and covert assassination methods. King Hussein of Jordan. King Hussein survived multiple assassination attempts during his reign. In 1970, a plot involving a hijacked plane and explosives aimed at his convoy was intercepted before execution. Hussein continued his rule for decades, navigating ongoing threats from regional conflicts.